Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. We're going to talk about AEW Full Gear from November the 18th, 2023. Before we get there, we do have one note that is worth discussing, I guess. Apparently, some people are mad at Danhausen, and I went to look up what it was about, and apparently him and his wife have gotten into some trouble for liking tweets. And then I dug just a shade deeper and found that people are now accusing him of selling bootleg merchandise. Now, the whole bootleg merchandise thing, which apparently is the reason why he has not debuted yet or re-debuted from his injury. Now, I should let people know from the beginning, this came from 4chan, which is about as reliable as a schizophrenic's memory. All right. It is not reliable whatsoever. But because I probably will not be double back into this story anytime soon, and just to, talk about this issue, because it was an issue in WWE at one point, let's discuss it. So apparently Danhausen, his return got canceled or pushed back or however that happened. And he went on Twitter and he liked a couple of tweets. And the tweets were basically, somebody else tweeted that that we don't really care about who the devil is. Just tell us when Danhausen is going to come back. And he liked the tweet. And then somebody went stalking through his wife's tweets and found that it was a joke about CM Punk, telling FTR and Danhausen and all them how he's going to get them out of AEW. And she liked that tweet. And everybody was like, oh my God, they're plotting to leave. They should quit. They're doing all this stuff. And I'm just looking like, it's two tweets, one of which is a joke about CM Punk going to WWE, which hasn't even happened yet. And this first one is basically a Danhausen fan who wants to know more about Danhausen. That's pretty much it. Don't really care about the mysteries, just kind of want to know where Danhausen is. And the second one was a joke about CM Punk, who is Danhausen's buddy, going to WWE. What is there to be upset about? So then it pops up online that Danhausen's return has been canceled and he might get fired from AEW, and people are trying to figure out what's going on. And then I was digging around because I was looking for the dirt sheets to post something. And apparently the closest thing to it is somebody posted a comment on 4chan, which again is as reliable as a wet paper bag. Don't trust 4chan, but since we just talk for a living over here, we ain't casting no aspersions. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying this is what I found when I saw people getting mad at Danhausen on Twitter. So apparently this is what was posted on 4chan. This is developing right now on X, which means Twitter, from the same guy who called Gates of Agony in the World Tag League. Danhausen was apparently stealing shirt designs from the AEW shop, then getting them printed out for dirt cheap at a local print shop and selling those himself for the same price as the AEW shop shirt. So what's the problem? The shirt quality is incredibly bad, even worse than pro wrestling tees. The original shirt designers aren't getting their cut of the pay. Supposedly Danhausen's big return was delayed as they investigated this, then totally canceled once the full details came out. He may even be fired at this point. Now, nobody ever said he was fired. Like, I don't know where that came from. But this was posted on the 17th at 11:30. So I'm pretty sure we would know a little bit more about it now, considering I'm recording this well after midnight because Full Gear just went off. That I would think in 24 hours, somebody would have been able to find something, some dirt sheet, somebody would have been able to scratch up something somewhere in order to, absolutely add some level of credence to this, but I ain't seen nothing nowhere. Now, let's say that it's true that Danhausen was taking designs from AEWshop.com and reprinting the shirts. Well, here's the thing. See, Pro Wrestling Tees, you create your own design, and Pro Wrestling Tees basically just distributes them. Okay? But AEW probably has its own marketing department, which means it probably has its own art department, which means it probably has its own artists. And there's the problem. That means that there's people who created this who are not going to get paid for it, just like the comment said. So if that were true, that he was somehow taking the designs that was created by AEW and then getting them done locally and cutting AEW out of it because he's doing it independently, okay, then there's a problem. It's also apparently screwing the fans if he's going to a print shop with very low quality t-shirts, because now you're damaging the reputation of the AEW brand and their brand of t-shirts. So, and of course, Pro Wrestling Tees, if you were trying to do that. But we're talking about AEW here, so we're talking about AEW. So, if he was at a convention, and apparently this was Motor City Comic Con, which he was at recently. And Motor City Comic Con was the week after YumaCon, so it would have been November the 12th. Or the weekend of the 12th, which would have been last Saturday, because today is the 18th, right? So it would have been the Friday, Saturday, Sunday of the previous week. And if this is true, then it's worthy of firing the guy over, because he's stealing designs. And, you know, cutting the company out of it is doing material damage to the company. Sorry, you can't do that. That's if this is true. However, if this is just smoke, then hey, for future references, if you take a design created by somebody else and then don't pay them, you're stealing. All right. For the record. Interestingly enough, I just want to tell this story because it's so much fun. RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan, he actually paid a guy, I think he said he paid him $400 to draw the Wu-Tang logo that RZA now owns and has made like upwards of $500 million off of. That's why this stuff is important. The artist got paid. You know, he probably wishes he'd got more than $400, but you know, he probably didn't know what the hell he was going to be, what this thing was going to be used for or what it was going to turn into. But that's why, you know, paying artists is very important, because you have to show some type of value for what they do. Now, if you have an art piece and you change it materially, then you can say basically you use the original art piece as a template for something else. And people do that all the time. They have, you know, various art pieces and they'll put like a mustache on the Mona Lisa or something like that. Like, well, it's not quite an original work, but you've changed it. You know, then we get into the music thing about an interpolation versus a sample and all that kind of stuff. And art is the same way. You know, if you take a photograph of somebody and then you change the photograph in some way, you've created a new product. So if he was to borrow the AEW logos, but to change them materially in some way, and not just, you know, merely change the colors, but maybe change the lettering or something like that to make it look unique and different, then he could argue it's a completely different product, which, you know, might be able to work if you can get away with that, you know, but it depends. But that was just an interesting thing. Let's get into this show. Let's start with the big AEW signing, the blockbuster signing, which was Will Ospreay. And fine, you know, here's the thing. I saw on Twitter that Will Ospreay actually got permission from New Japan to sign the contract now. So all this talk about WWE offering Will Ospreay, blah, 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 they didn't have the opportunity to. The guy was under contract to New Japan. He can't even negotiate with WWE. But because AEW is a partner, New Japan was basically like, well, if they're interested in you, your contract with us is about to expire. Apparently, from what he said in the promo, he was with them for 8 years. And this is going to be a substantial increase of money for him. He was probably like, okay, they're probably like, yeah, go ahead and get that bag. Especially since they'll probably still let us use you on a part-time basis for like the G1 or Wrestle Kingdom, the big events. He still can work New Japan because Eddie Kingston works New Japan. And this was why the decision for him to go to WWE was never going to occur in the first place. Now, I will say this, and kind of get a little bit of a tiff with the AEW fans when I said this. But how many times has Tony Khan, quote unquote, done business where somebody ended up taking their talent? I mean, he used to work with the NWA. Remember that? And then from the NWA, he took Thunder Rosa, Ricky Starks, and Eddie Kingston. Since AEW has started, he has signed several guys right out of New Japan. Aussie Open, Will Ospreay, and several others. This is why, you know, in the old days, guys were very reluctant to work together. Because you do a lot of cross promotion. And the other promoter has time to chit-chat with your talent. And then, you know, talk your talent into joining their company. And this is why people are not thrilled by it. But for a guy in Tony Khan who is constantly yelling and screaming about, you know, talent tampering and contract tampering and all this kind of stuff. WWE is trying to steal my talent. This guy always manages to have these conversations with these talent while they're still under contract. And then these guys just jump ship to AEW. I mean, there's not much you can do about it in terms of giving a talent an opportunity. I tell the story about, you know, Brian Pillman Jr. all the time that in the MLW contracts, you can't work anybody else who had television, and they had a list of companies. So Impact was on it, Ring of Honor was on it, WWE, of course, was on it, but AEW didn't exist at the time, so they weren't on it. So Brian Pillman could legally go work AEW, and that's what he was doing. And then, of course, because it was a shutdown, you know, he tried to get out of his MLW contract, and they was like, nope, you have to work this thing out. And basically, he just did jobs for who knows how long until his contract was out. But it's that when you see how this thing works, a talent, you know, goes somewhere else and decides that they're just going to walk away from their previous job, you know. But at the very least, you could say these people are giving the companies, especially New Japan, an opportunity to finish up their engagement. So guys are getting a little bit more professional. And like in the 80s and stuff like that, sometimes guys did not complete their contract. Hulk Hogan walked out on the AWA, didn't complete his contract. Several other people did the same thing when Vince, you know, gave them the phone call. They would just drop and disappear. Junkyard Dog famously did it to quite a few guys, you know, when they were offered a bigger contract, they just walked away. So talent, at least today, you got to give them some credit. At least they're finishing their commitments. And that's a positive for the business, because part of what did an incredible amount of damage to the business before wasn't just the talent, taking the talent. I mean, talent comes and goes. It was taking the talent while the guy was still using him. You know, like this guy's booked for 6 months in advance, and you decided because there's no contract, I'm going to snatch him right now, and he's going to be on my show May the 11th. He's not going to be on your show May the 13th. Like, that's just not going to happen. And then that's really what drove people up the wall, because, you know, you didn't have any contracts, so now they do. So it's a positive. But Will Ospreay was not worth all of the hubbub. But the AEW fans are happy because, you know, Will Ospreay is their guy. They have their narrative that WWE missed out on him when they had no opportunity to get him anyway. It's the same thing with Kazuchika Okada. They're doing it right now, where WWE has renewed interest in Okada. Who the hell even knows what Okada's contract thing is even about? You know, like, they can have all the interest that they want. Can they legally negotiate with a talent? Probably not. Not while the guy's under contract. They can't do it. They're going to express interest. I'm sure they expressed interest in a lot of things. I expressed interest in a donut I did not buy earlier today. I expressed interest in a cheeseburger I did not buy. I wish I had got that son of a bitch too. I didn't though. I wish I wouldn't got that cheeseburger. My goodness. I expressed interest in some nachos that I didn't make. Doesn't mean anything to express interest. I expressed interest in a girl who didn't talk to me. It don't matter. Why do people listen to this stuff? They express interest. Who the hell cares? You can express all the fucking interest you want. That doesn't mean that you can actually legally do anything, you know? So let's move through this show. Let's hurry up and get through this thing. I don't want to be here all day. Eddie Kingston defeated Jay Lethal. This was on the pre-show. Okay, Eddie Kingston being a real world champion. He's on the pre-show. Rising all ships. He's the tide that's rising the ships. You know, I'm the tide. Like, I like to rise the ships. Like that ship that you saw called Jay Lethal, I rose him up. I raised him from young. No, you didn't. This was stupid and it sucked. Claudio Castagnoli defeated Buddy Matthews in a match that you knew was going to be at least in ring pretty good, and it was. Buddy Matthews refused to shake Claudio's hand after the match. He won the match with the sharpshooter. Okay, next, MJF and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe got his deal with MJF done, and he took MJF's side on this match, and they defeated the Gun Boys. MJF now owes Samoa Joe a championship match. Now, it was said that Juice Robinson got hit in the head with a TV, and therefore he will not be on this show. And let me tell you about the pop. Huge pop. Almost fainted. Like, you know, when you go to a Michael Jackson concert and, you know, he look in your general direction and everything just gets numb and you get lightheaded and next thing you know, ambulance is carrying you out. That's how I felt when I heard that Juice Robinson was not going to be on this show. Huge pop, you know, huge pop. So, after the match, the Guns jumped MJF and attacked his knee. Adam Cole had come ringside and was cheering on MJF. Samoa Joe didn't help. He just walked away, which is typical Samoa Joe. He played this character in TNA, and he, you know, I think they did that really interesting thing in TNA with Samoa Joe where he says, "I got your back from bell to bell." So after the final bell, Samoa Joe just went on about his business, and, you know, the other guy got his ass kicked and Samoa Joe didn't help him. So they basically just did that again. So the Gun Boys destroyed MJF's leg. He had to get carted out on a stretcher. And then as he's being carted out, MJF's whining and crying, and he tells Adam Cole, "Don't let them take my title from me. Don't let them take it away, Adam. Please help me, Adam." And Adam Cole made the promise that he's not going to let them take the title away. Later, it's announced that MJF cannot compete, and therefore he will have to cough up the world title to Jay White by default. Jay White comes out with the belt expecting the announcement. Here comes Adam Cole. Adam Cole said that he promised MJF that he will not let them do this. So he says that he will take up the spot. He will wrestle in MJF's spot. So for some odd reason, a guy who just had double surgery on both of his ankles is medically cleared to... This doesn't make any sense. Now, clearly, once this was announced, I knew it was not going to occur. You know, I knew it wasn't going to occur. I'm not stupid. All right. The issue I had here is it's not believable that the guy who just literally had double ankle surgery is going to wrestle. Which they could have done and improved this. It says that perhaps Samoa Joe is going to be the guy who's going to step in and defend the title on MJF's behalf in order to protect his title shot. Samoa Joe says, "Look, I can only get my title shot if MJF is still the champion. So I will fight in MJF's spot in order for MJF to stay the champion so I can get my title shot." That makes more sense than saying the guy with the fucking double ankle surgery is going to fight the match. That's stupid. Nobody believes that. Now, there was people on the internet acting up over this because they're idiots. You had to know that Adam Cole was not wrestling this match. So the idea of people complaining about the bait and switch is like, come on, give yourself some credit. No, you knew this wasn't going to happen. Unless you're a fucking dumbass, you knew this wasn't going to happen. All right? So the question was, what were they going to do? In my head, I'm saying Samoa Joe is going to come out there and voluntarily take the match. That's what I'm thinking. So Adam Cole does the introduction. He comes out with the crutches. He's got the title belt. He's small and beardy. He looks sleepy. He's sitting in the corner. Jay White's on the other side. They announced this as a championship match. Then MJF comes back on the ambulance. He stole the ambulance. He pulls a Sting from, what was that, Clash of Champions, where he comes through the crowd and he's limping and all these officials and everybody is trying to stop him. And he gets in the ring anyway and tells them to ring the bell. He's going to wrestle the match himself. Now, does it make sense that a guy who you just said was not medically cleared is now able to wrestle the match just a few hours after you said he wasn't medically cleared? Look, I don't know. I don't know. I guess you could say we had a second thought. We got a second opinion. Yeah, I don't know. And then we went from a guy who's not medically cleared to a guy who can do kip-ups after kangaroo kicks. A guy who can run across the ring, jump over the top rope, and do an RKO on the floor. A guy who will leap off the top rope with an elbow drop onto the floor. Kick out of everything imaginable on this show. And look, they tried. Look, this was very dramatic. Jay White versus MJF was a very dramatic match. It was mostly dramatic because Adam Cole was still at ringside, making a lot of really small mistakes. You know, leaving the ring where Jay White can get it, for instance. Very suspicious. He was going to throw the towel in, you know, when MJF was in the figure 4. Very suspicious. He picked up the Ring of Honor tag team title. It looked like he was going to hit Jay White with it, and then basically just let Jay White snatch it from him. Very suspicious. And you were like, okay, you're kind of waiting for Adam Cole to turn heel, because that's really what you would think is going to occur here, because that's what I was waiting on. I was waiting on MJF to have his back turned and for Adam Cole to slide in the ring and smash MJF in the head with that crutch. That's what I was waiting for. That's what I was waiting for. Now, why that didn't happen, I don't know. Okay? But that's what I was waiting for, because why else would Adam Cole still be ringside? He could have went to the back. He didn't need to be out there. Right? So they did everything to each other possible in this match. Jay White hit a Uranagi off the top rope. It was nasty, a nasty looking move. That meant nothing, you know. And they're just doing all kinds of stuff. Like, it wasn't a ton of Canadian destroyers back and forth. Nobody drinking each other's blood or anything stupid like that. But the match seemed to go on forever. I like wrestling as a drama. I like the elements of Adam Cole being ringside, because even though I'm like, oh, why is he still out there? Because he didn't turn. He did add some dramatic elements to the match. Like I said, leaving the ring where Jay White can get it. Because now you're like, oh, is he trying to help Jay White? Or is he just, you know, a Butterfingers? You know, the threat of him throwing in the towel. Is he going to throw in the towel to fuck MJF? Or is he going to throw in the towel because he's trying to save his friend? You have those things to think about in the match. Now, if they did that in a shorter amount of time, and MJF wasn't leaping around that sumbitch, jumping all over the place, then maybe I'd have bought a lot more of this stuff. But because MJF's doing kip-ups, and he got the energy to run and jump over the top rope, like, they did a really good story that physically they undermined. You have the commentary team basically saying that, you know, Adam Cole tells MJF to do a tope suicida. So he looks at Adam Cole and then he decides he's going to do it. So he runs to the ropes, and then that gives Jay White the opportunity to get back in the ring and kick him in the leg. Okay, that's a great story. Now, the commentary team is talking about how Adam Cole is a distraction. He's in the way. You know, this match could have been over or whatever. He's giving them bad advice. Excellent. If they'd have stepped with that and then let MJF sell and not jump all over the place, then this match would have been shorter. It would have been so much better. But instead, you know, they went through the trouble of kicking the guns out, then doing 2 different ref bumps so the guns could come back in. Then MJF ended up getting the ring back, punching Jay White in the head and pinning him. Great. The match was dramatic. Drama is good, but this match was entirely too long, and it was way too much unbelievable stuff in the main event. And then nothing happened. You know, like, still waiting on that Adam Cole heel turn or the guy in the devil mask to show up or something. I got nothing. We got nothing. just a match where MJF made a heroic comeback, which was supposed to be dramatic, but anybody with a functioning brain either knew that MJF was coming back or somebody else was going to step up. So we're looking in this position and we're saying, okay, Jay White got his first loss in AEW. What do you do with him now? You know, it was by Dynamite Diamond Ring, so it wasn't like he was, you know, beat by submission or anything like that. But he's done. Like, you done everything you could possibly do to this fucking guy, and you couldn't beat him. So this is over, right? Like, what more can you do? You can't do much more. And that's like that's a big problem with me when it comes to AEW and their matches. They just seem to throw everything in the fucking match. You don't have to do everything that you know how to do in one match. Literally, you don't. For starters, this probably shouldn't have been the Angle match show. You probably should have done the Angle on TV. The whole thing about whether MJF is actually going to be able to work the match or not probably would have worked better on TV than it worked on pay-per-view. Now, I'm not saying it was bad on pay-per-view, but it would have worked better on TV. All right, let's get into the first match. Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and Luchasaurus are defeated by Darby Allin, Sting, and Edge. I'm sorry, government name Adam Copeland. That just sounds boring. I mean, I'm just going to keep calling him Edge. I'm not calling him fucking Adam Copeland. That sounds boring as shit. The guy's name is Edge. His mama called him Edge. I'm calling him Edge. A children's choir sung Christian to the ring. It was actually creepy. They call him the patriarch of AEW. I like it. The patriarch. That sounds excellent. It sounds demonic. Yeah, it's like a horror movie. The patriarch. Like he's some kind of demon possessed, you know, pastor or something like that. It rules. Ric Flair was out there, and this led to me rolling my eyes for the first time as Flair attacked Christian Cage in full view of the referee, chopped him, punched him, everything, right in front of the ref. And the commentary team is yelling about referee's discretion. And I'm like, bro, in what book is you attacking a performer not a disqualification? Like, bro, what the hell are you doing? So you broke my immersion, and I'm instantly like, okay, no, you're not paying attention. Anyway, Ric Flair ended up getting hit in the nuts and taken out of this match, which is fine with me. Christian Cage had a chair, and then he hit Luchasaurus with the chair by accident. Then Edge chased Christian away. So Christian ran out on Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus. And I think Nick Wayne ended up getting pinned. So, of course, Edge, Darby Allin, and Sting win. After the match, they only got like a mild reaction. So Darby Allin got on the mic and said, "This is the Sting's last fucking match in California." And then everybody was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we forgot." So they stood up and started clapping. Even more, Sting's son was out there. It was very nice. Very, very nice. Edge even painted half his face like Darby Allin. So they're really kind of just going to overdo it with the Sting and Darby Allin teaming up with a random legend guy. They got CM Punk to paint his face. Now they got Edge to paint his face too. It was fun though. I hated the match, but Edge painting his face was fun. He actually looked like he fit in there. The second match on the show was Orange Cassidy versus Jon Moxley. Let me tell you this. Jon Moxley went through this thing like Wile E. Coyote. You know? I mean, you just hit this guy with everything, he just keeps coming back. At the finishing stretch of this match, I think they hit him in the head with an anvil. They shot him out of a cannon. The sun rolled him over. He got dunked underneath the Atlantic Ocean and came back. You know, he got, shot in the head with a Sig Sauer, and he just kept coming back. And I was just looking at this shit like, look, I don't like Orange Cassidy. All right? Orange Cassidy fucking sucks. But for us to have to go through all of this to beat Jon Moxley, like it's a ridiculous number of moves that have to get put together in a row to beat Jon Moxley. I'm just like, what the hell? Why would you book Orange Cassidy this way? Look, I know you're trying to make him the wall that Orange Cassidy can't climb. In this instance, just fucking beat the guy then. Orange Cassidy should fucking lost. So if you're trying to tell the story that Orange Cassidy is doing all this kind of stuff and he can't beat Jon Moxley, then Moxley should have won the fucking match. All right? That is simple. And then they do it again. And then Orange Cassidy tries something else, you know? But the idea that he's going to hit him with 5 orange punches, run his head into the turnbuckle twice, have him bleeding, and nothing can stop Jon Moxley because he's a fucking Terminator, apparently. We need, what was that, like the 2003 Baltimore Ravens, the 1985 Chicago Bears? Like, what are you going to need, like a football team to beat this fucking guy? I watched this, like, literally, it was like, they're doing everything to Moxley, and he's just not staying down. They're really just making this match look terrible. There was at one point where Orange Cassidy, in order to cause the blood, because you got to cause the blood somehow, Orange Cassidy threw what seemingly was like 15 headbutts, but they looked incredibly phony, because there's no way you're bashing your own head against somebody else's head that hard, that many times, in succession, and you're not bleeding or unconscious. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it makes no sense. I hate headbutts in wrestling anyway, but these headbutts look so fake and they look so stupid. Everything about this match was phony as fuck. I hated it. Hate this match. This match fucking sucks. If you're going to tell the story, the David versus Goliath, for starter, you need Goliath to be a little bit bigger. But if you're going to do this, he's the white whale, then Moxley should have won this match. Because he only beat him once. It's not like he has a history of beating Orange Cassidy's ass. He should have tried the orange punch. Maybe tried it again. It didn't work. Then he tried to do something else. That didn't work. And then he just gets beat with the Death Rider. And then he's like, you got nothing for me, kid. And just goes on about his day. And then maybe in a couple of weeks, Orange Cassidy thinks up of something else, or maybe he even thinks about cheating. You know, and he becomes obsessed with Jon Moxley, which is what the point of this story was, is that he was obsessing over Jon Moxley. You could have continued this. Like, there's too quick with the instant gratification. Again, I don't like Orange Cassidy, but I do like well-told stories. And if you're going to tell a story here, for starters, you don't have Jon Moxley walk through everything and then lose. Okay? It just doesn't make sense. It's dumb. They also named 2 more guys for the Continental Classic. Mark Briscoe is going to be one of the 2 guys. He cut a promo talking about eating continental breakfast, which I learned is just like cereal. Basic breakfast, like cereal and bagels, and driving a Lincoln Continental. And I was like, this is very much a Mark Briscoe promo. And for some odd reason, he just reminds me of Butch of the Bushwhackers. Maybe it's the fact that he doesn't have any front teeth. But the big announcement was Eddie Kingston is going to be in the Continental Classic. And he will actually be putting his titles on the line in every match that he's in, which will make the winner of the tournament a Triple Crown champion, the Ring of Honor World Champion, the New Japan Strong Openweight Champion, and the Continental Champion, whatever the hell that is. And we don't know if that's a championship like a cup, or if that's going to be a belt. We're not sure which one it is. AEW doesn't need any more goddamn belts, I can tell you that much. They got too many belts. They got Commander running around with a belt. Like, he had a green belt, but that was the AAA Cruiserweight title, if I remember correctly. I remember seeing that belt a lot. But there's too many, you got job guys running around with belts, and you don't need any more belts. No more belts, please. If it's a cup, fine. If it's a belt, go to hell. Eddie Kingston saying that both titles are going to be on the line in every match he's in basically just says, I'm going to win this tournament. Because wouldn't New Japan have to agree for him to drop that title? They would have to agree, right? So, who would they agree for him to drop the title to? I don't know. And why would they have him drop the title in a tournament in AEW when he could drop the title at their show? What would be the point of that? Do you feel what I'm saying? So you're pretty much looking at this thing and saying, unless the guy who beats him is somebody who regularly goes to New Japan, you pretty much can guess that Eddie Kingston is going to win this tournament. And be the Triple Crown champion. It's going to be a big push for him. And I know everybody's looking at it like, my goodness, Eddie Kingston's going to win a tournament that features Andrade El Idolo. Look at me. And Bryan Danielson. I'm saying, how else can you do this when the titles are on the line in every match? How else do you get out of this situation? You know, like, how else do you get out of this situation? You know, the only option you have is for Kingston to lose all his matches by count out or disqualification. That would be the only way to get out of this thing. And then he would have to lose some match by pinfall, right? He would have to. But then again, he doesn't have to, because if he loses all his matches by count out, he cannot win the tournament and never having gotten pinned or submitted in the tournament. So I guess he could go through the entire tournament without being pinned or submitted. Okay, also, they added the rule that there will be no outside interference allowed in any tournament match, which is great. You know, I don't hate that. For me, outside interference in wrestling shows has gotten to the point where it's just way too much. There's entirely too many run-ins on these shows now, especially on WWE TV, but AEW is quickly catching up with the amount of surprise run-ins and the ref bumps too. It's just like, there's a lot going on, you know, so, Eddie Kingston makes the tournament interesting, which, you know, is good for him. But I want to know who else is going to be in it, because only like 4 or 5 guys. Well, right now, only 4 guys have actually said they're going to be in it. Eddie Kingston, Mark Briscoe, Bryan Danielson, and Andrade El Idolo. Everybody else is kind of like a mystery. It's supposed to be a 12-man tournament. So you got 8 people, and the tournament's supposed to start on Wednesday. So I'm guessing 8 people between now and Wednesday are going to announce they're going to be in the tournament. So anyway. Okay. Third match on the show. Toni Storm wins the AEW Women's World title, defeating Hikaru Shida. Now, I was disappointed that this entire match was not in black and white, as I thought it would be. But instead, it was in color. It was very unfortunate. You could have set the mood by at least having Toni Storm's match in black and white on TV. Anyway, Toni Storm stabbed Hikaru Shida in the head with a shoe, with the end of her shoe. Apparently her shoes are on a platter, and the platter is kept in the corner. So she was able to take both of her shoes. The referee took one of them, and while he was getting rid of it, he stabbed her with the other one. That was actually pretty cool. This Luther fella was outside the ring. Hikaru Shida started beating him with a kendo stick because he was getting in the way. This allowed Toni Storm to put the platter, which is a metal tray, in her trunks. So when she did the hip attack, which is her running booty attack, it was essentially a metal pan to the face. And that was the 1, 2, 3. Toni Storm is the champion. Okay, good. This was a smart decision. Maybe Shida shouldn't have been champion in the first place, but putting the belt on Toni is the right thing to do. I've said it, it'd probably be a little too soon for it. And that's true, but I don't know where you were going with Shida anyway. Like, was there a plan? Was there ever a plan for Shida? Probably not. So, what was funny to me is Taz was like, she got it in her britches. I haven't heard the word britches in so long. You know, he must got family in like Mississippi or something like that to call her tights britches. Mariah May, who was watching the match, came ringside with a bouquet of flowers for Toni. And Toni waved the bouquet of flowers and the championship, and she was carried out by Luther. It was all very over the top and silly. So Toni Storm wins. It's the right decision. Can't complain, even though I think it probably happened a little too quickly. The next match was the ladder match for the AEW Tag Team Championship. La Facción Ingobernables, FTR, House of Black, Starks, and Big Bill. I'm kind of burnt out on ladder matches, if we're being honest. They haven't happened as much lately, but I feel like we've seen everything there is to see in a ladder match, so I don't really get too excited for them. But there was a Gonzo bomb by Brody Lee onto the ladder with Jordan, I think it was, and it looked nasty. It looked like it was not going to go well for either one of them. Big Bill and Brody King was fighting, and they were getting meat chants, which is always nice. That's the one positive thing the AEW fan base has brought to the table. You know, the meat chant. Hopefully people don't blow it out of proportion, but I like the meat chant. In terms of the match itself, it was gaga. Just a bunch of spots. You know, it's basically what ladder matches are. They don't have a story anymore. They don't have psychology anymore. It's basically just, how many different ways can I kill you with this ladder? How many different ways can you kill me with this ladder before somebody slowly climbs it and takes the belts and wins? Nothing really to think too much about or put too much stock in. The next match had a little bit more story, actually, believe it or not. Julia Hart wins the TBS Championship, defeating Chris Statlander and Sky Blue. They did a WWE finish in which Chris Statlander had Sky Blue beat with one of her finishers named Saturday Night Fever, which is basically like a tombstone power driver. And Julia Hart clotheslined Chris Statlander and then stole the pin, pinning Sky Blue. Now, Sky Blue, they actually brought out some new stuff for her. She got a new theme song. She's got a new presentation, darker theme. She's also now wearing like a crown of flowers or something like that. She stomped on her own baseball hat. She's wearing a little bit more makeup. She's supposed to be a little bit more heelish. She actually comes across a little bit more aggressive too, which is good. But she still has pretty girl, no personality energy. Similar for Julia Hart. So she seems to have a little bit more charisma and a little bit more attractiveness. I don't mean like she's hot. I mean like she's interesting, you know? There's something about Julia Hart that catches your attention. So this was good. The match itself was basically what they wanted it to be in terms of Chris Statlander basically challenged both of them to fight her at the same time, and they do. And then they agreed to not fight each other, but they did it left-hand handshakes, which almost never go well. And this led to Julia Hart attacking Sky Blue, and then they started fighting each other. It was fine. You know, it was fine. Julia Hart having a championship. Okay, that was good. Look, Chris Statlander chasing Julia Hart makes a lot more sense than Chris Statlander coming out of nowhere and beating, you know, Jade Cargill in 2 seconds. You know, whatever. Now she can chase somebody and actually build a story. But I am questioning, like, what's the point of changing Sky Blue and doing all this to her if she's just going to continue being a loser like she was before? Now she's just a loser heel version of Sky Blue. I don't know. And I don't see the purpose of having two characters who have the same role. So if Julia Hart going to be the creepy, pretty girl, then what is Sky Blue's role? To be the same thing? She should go in a little bit different direction, you know, in terms of her character, maybe, you know, but I don't know. Who knows what the plans are, you know? I guess we got to let it play out, but I've been watching it play out and it ain't been going anywhere. So far, the only championships that have changed hands are the women's titles because they're the only ones that probably could. Now we talk about a match I hated more than life itself. That is the Texas Death Match that everybody has been raving over on Twitter. Basically, all the people who voted for the Young Bucks for the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame loved this match. Think it was one of the greatest death matches ever. To me, I was like, the moment I saw a man use a cinder block and smash it in the back of another man's head, but that cinder block evaporated like a snowball. I mean, it came apart like you threw baby powder on him. I was like, there's no way this is real. There's just no realism to this right now. You know, we're in cartoon land. And cartoon violence can be fun, you know? But what really took me out of this match wasn't even the cinder block stuff, because I was taken out of the match before then. Now, I don't know if I told you guys this before, but I have a thing about body fluids, all right? It's just a thing, all right? I can't deal with it. When Swerve was bleeding from the staples to the face that they were doing, and Hangman Page decided he was going to drink Swerve's blood, I wanted to turn the show off, all right? That shit it was so creepy and disgusting. I wanted to turn the show off. I did not see any value in that. Now, for the audience, that's when they popped. They started really popping crazy for that. I looked at that and it was like, yo, that's gross as fuck. All right? It's not, oh, Mongo, you have a queasy stomach. Well, maybe I do. That shit was gross, dog. All right? There's no value to it. And there's no way to fake it. Like, wasn't like, you know, he was licking ketchup off the guy's head or something like that. That was literally his fucking blood. No way. No way, cuz. No way, cuz. Like, his wife is going to kiss him in that mouth. What the fuck? Like, literally, what the fuck? You have to think about that kind of stuff. Bro, nah. Nah. I'm a pass. All right? And that was pretty early in the match. So you already know, this match was long as hell, too. They're just beating each other half to death with everything possible, which was another detriment to this match because you got so much barbed wire, not too many cuts at all on your body. You're hitting each other with cinder blocks. You're falling all over cinder blocks and everything, and nobody's dead. Oh, come on, man. What are you guys made of? Either you made out of rubber or you're RoboCop, you know? I don't know what else to tell you. There's just no way people are going to believe this shit is a real fight. It's going to be one of the greatest death matches of all time. Like, what? No, it's not. For starters, it's a last man standing match. They just called it a Texas death match. It ain't even the same rules. All right, let's talk about it. So, Swerve Strickland this was actually made narrative sense. Apparently, Hangman Page brought his son's finger painted thing or whatever, and he stapled it to Swerve's face so he'll never forget it. That would have been great for a finish. You know, like after the match, he stapled it to his forehead or something like that. That would have been great. But in this part, it was just early in the match because Hangman Page is raging. And then at one point, Hangman Page gets glass poured on his back. Is it real glass? Cry me a river. Is it real glass? I don't know. But he pours some, it looked like broken beer bottles. It's probably worked, sugar glass. And poured it on his back. And then did a 450 on it. Didn't cut up his back. Didn't cut up, Swerve's stomach. Just fake shit, you know? I can understand hitting somebody in the head with a bottle or something like that in a street fight scenario. But pouring broken glass on it and then you jump on the broken glass? Probably not. Okay? Probably not. So I was like, all right, they're just going to add furniture to everything. Glass and thumbtacks. There wasn't no thumbtacks, but there was a bunch of other horse shit. Everything except fire. They really buried the barbed wire here. There's barbed wire all over the place. You know, the finish. Let's talk about the finish. So, after Brian Cage interfered and beat up Hangman Page from behind, even though Hangman Page ended up fighting him off, Hangman Page then does a dead eye on Prince Nana through the table. Swerve Strickland attacks Hangman Page from behind with the cinder block. You know, the cinder block that absolutely exploded like a water balloon when he got hit in the head with it. And then he strangled him into unconsciousness using the metal chain. He basically hung him. And Hangman Page could not get to his feet to the count of 10. It's another match where I think the wrong guy won. Look, I don't even remember who won the last match. I would imagine, I think Swerve won the last match, right? Yeah. When Hangman is a victim of a guy breaking into his house, he should have won the match. He should have been made whole in this match. Or they should have done something in a way where Swerve escapes and Hangman has to now pursue him for another match. I think that's what they were going for with this finish and having Brian Cage run in and then having a cinder block to the back of the head and Nana come out, you know, in there and all this stuff, all the shenanigans. But the problem with the Texas Deathmatch idea is that you already have gone as far as you're going to go. Like, how do you top this? Where you hitting each other with cinder blocks, you're jumping through barbed wire. How are you going to top this? Explosions? Fire? Somebody going to get thrown off the Pontiac Silverdome? You'll get run over with a tractor? Like, how do you top this? What's the third match going to be? You know? And there has to be a third match because Hangman needs to be made whole. He is a babyface and a main event babyface for AEW. You can't have this guy saying that his house was invaded and he just lost to the guy and that was it. So the story is not over. You did all this shit and then the story's not over. They're not even tied. As far as I know, to my best of my recollection, Swerve won both of the matches in this feud so far. That's why Hangman should have won this match. So that Swerve would have a bitch, a moan, and a complaint say, we won and won. Let's go one more time, and I'll pick the stipulation this time. You know? And then Hangman can say, well, look, you violated my family. I'm welcome to whoop your ass again. But I'm not going to say it's a bad thing that Hangman lost this match, because, again, it sets up the third match. But more importantly, it keeps Hangman strong. It keeps Hangman looking strong in the eyes of the fans. Now everybody understands at this point how AEW booking works and their storytelling elements and all this kind of stuff. So basically they're saying, hey, it's your turn. You know, it's Swerve's turn now to get pushed. So Hangman should never win a match again. It's like, no, you understand storytelling. Sometimes the babyface has to win. Matter of fact, the babyface should win more often than not. All right. But you definitely need to have the babyface win if their family is being harassed by the heel. That's why you don't do family harassments unless the babyface is going over. Because it's a definite babyface should go over situation. But Swerve wins because they're trying to make Swerve. They're trying to make Swerve happen. But I was also kind of perturbed by this by saying, okay, we know that Prince Nana is going to be out there. And we know that, you know, Swerve has the Mogul Embassy and all this kind of stuff. Nobody was there to help Hangman. Nobody. He had to fight from underneath, which was good, you know, but also would have been fine if somebody would have come out there and helped him, you know. You could have also had that too, but I think having him fight off everybody made it seem a little bit more heroic. And it made him, you know, more heroic when he went down too. So maybe it was right for them to not have somebody else come out there. I'm just working my way through this. You know, I'm thinking my way through it. So from a narrative perspective, Swerve winning really puts him over as a dastardly evil heel. But it makes Hangman look pathetic because he couldn't avenge his family when his son got pelted with t-shirts, which, you know, not good. T-shirts could be heavy. You know, he's a baby, you know. Match 7, the match I wanted to watch the least on the entire show, and I forgot it was actually going to happen until it happened. The Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. Oh my stars and goddess. Did I mention that Prince Nana had backup dancers for his entrance? For a Texas death match, it was surprisingly upbeat. Where they got a full dance ring thing going on. Like, you know, it's like a Taylor Swift concert. Everybody's doing the Nana dance. Like, it's a Texas death match situation here. Why are we doing this? You know? Anyway, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, this match was what it was, you know. At one point, Jericho hit Omega by accident. Omega teased attacking Jericho with the V-trigger later. By this point, that match had been on for 10 minutes already. And I was like, okay, you don't turn heel. If you're going to turn heel on Jericho, you're not going to do it 10, 12 minutes into the match when you've already beat up the Young Bucks a little bit. They've already beat you up a little bit. And now, I'm going to turn heel on you. I no longer wish to be tag team partners with you, Jericho. No, nobody believes that. You know, so it was horseshit. Now, Jericho did kick out of the BTE trigger, which I wasn't expecting, if we're being honest. But the Young Bucks, every Young Bucks match, it looks like the previous Young Bucks match. They just look a little bit older. That's it. Kenny Omega works pretty much the same match every time. Jericho was just there. You know, he was just present. He did a little bit, but he didn't do a lot. He did enough. He appeared on the show, which is more than you could say for most people. After the match, the Young Bucks threw a tantrum again, tearing up ringside, smashing ring posts with chairs and tearing up barricades and everything. So The Golden Jets, Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, are now going to get that tag team title shot that was owed to the Young Bucks. And I'm telling you, man, the Young Bucks need to change their image. They need something different. I don't know what it is, but they need to do something different. They suck as they are right now. And they always sucked. I'm not sure they can change that too much. That's probably a genetic issue. It's a skill issue, as they say. So I'm not sure what you can do, but they're boring as shit, and I don't want to watch them. I haven't wanted to watch them in a long time, but at least we could laugh at the matches before. But now I've seen this routine 100 times. It's like if you watch, a magic show and they keep doing the same tricks over and over again. It's like, all right, I've seen this trick already. What else you got? I've seen you do this move already. I've seen you do this. What else do you got? And I feel the same way about Kenny Omega too, to a degree. So I really wasn't interested in this, but this was just basically there to buttress the card in between, big matches in the main event. So it just turns out to be, and there was nothing really dramatic about this match either. No big storyline elements either. Don Callis was at ringside, and I was like, maybe the Young Bucks will team up with Don Callis. I don't know. It wouldn't make a lot of sense, but it would be something. But they didn't even do that. Well, so we're stuck with what we're stuck with, which makes no sense to me. But Full Gear, as a show, a lot of ups and downs, a little something for everybody. It had some comedic elements in there with the Tony Storm stuff. They had some serious drama with MJF. Violent nonsense with Swerve and Hangman. I guess you could also say the ladder match for high action. Some good. They didn't really have a good grappling match, So that was probably something that was missing. But I think they did what they always do, which is they leaned into the hardcores. They leaned into that niche audience. And they gave them exactly what they were looking for in signing Will Ospreay and MJF retaining the title. No heel turns. Nothing that changed the status quo too much. It was basically you paid $50 to watch the status quo roll forward. Except for the minor change, the minor tumult in the TBS division with Julia Hart winning the title. So, now I'm interested in seeing what kind of champion she's going to be, how they're going to build feuds with her, etc. That could be fun. But everything else is still the same as when it went in, except now Samoa Joe is the top contender for the title and probably should win it. Now, before we get rid of this, before I close this out, Danhausen tweeted out that the whole story that from 4chan was a lie, and I'm pretty sure he would say that. But nobody, again, didn't really believe it, but have to talk about it because it floated around on Twitter long enough for most people to see it. And some people are not going to see that Danhausen said that it wasn't true and that it ended up being deleted and all this kind of stuff. Because again, people are spreading gossip. We don't know what's going on with the guy. And the tweets that he supposedly liked were not that big a deal anyway. Now, one final thing. Well, probably be a couple more final things because I had a lot running through my head. Okay, MJF did the scrum and he was crying about Jay White stealing his little title belt, and I don't like that. All right, like look, we've gone from MJF being a really sort of thoroughly villainous heel to now being a kind of cringy babyface. Like he could still be he's still sort of the cocky asshole. And that's what everybody liked. Now that he's doing weepy promos, I don't know if that's going to change people's perceptions of him. And it probably should. Now, one of the discourses that's been floating around, between the end of the show and sort of, I don't know where they at in the scrum, is that Jay White's been buried because it took him forever to lose to a one-leg MJF. That's how injury angles work. Injury angles almost always work with, the guy who lost kind of looks bad because the guy who was injured won. Like when Seth Rollins beats Cody Rhodes, basically, when Cody Rhodes beats Seth Rollins with basically one arm, it made Seth look like shit. You know, that's why wrestling needs to be more realistic. Unless your character is like superhuman based, you know, like you're the Undertaker or something like that. A guy who walks into a fight with one leg should probably lose that fight. I mean, it's just kind of how it is. And I'm not surprised people feel that way. But Jay White does not have the support that he had when he was in New Japan. I can guarantee you that if this was WWE, more people would be talking about how this was a burial, how this made him look like shit. You know, somebody even called Cody a jobber because he lost at WrestleMania. Like, that's the only fucking match he lost this whole year. But that's just kind of how things are now. You know, so it's a weird thing for people to get really tight-assed about, you know, Jay White losing. It's like, one, you kind of figured he was going to lose. I figured he was going to lose. You know, I didn't think for a second that Jay White was going to win the title. It would have surprised me if he did, but I knew he wasn't going to win. They're doing something with MJF here. I don't know where it's going, but they got the devil thing. They got the Wardlow thing. They weren't going to give up the title yet. So I knew that wasn't going to happen. And the next situation is, what do you do with Jay White now that he's challenged for the title and lost? Well, you start all over again, I guess. There's always the tag team division, I guess. Because now the world title division has just taken him out of it. And you still got Wardlow in it. You still got that devil storyline in it. And you still got Samoa Joe in it. And then you still got whatever they're doing with Adam Cole. And then apparently, I guess, Roderick Strong too, maybe. So you still got some people floating around MJF. And now you've completed the Jay White portion. Now you have to do something else with Jay White. Everybody is very excited on the internet about Swerve Strickland and Adam Page. I hated it for the blood stuff. I don't hate blood in matches, but when you're doing, you know, obviously gross shit, and then when the stuff looks obviously fake, I'm just not interested in it. I know a lot of people are gonna say, I've seen somebody say this was the AEW match of the year. I really hope they don't think that. I don't know what the match of the year for AEW would be, but it wouldn't be this. I mean, but AEW fans are a different breed, you know. They like this kind of stuff, but again, the moment a cinder block just falls apart, like it was like you crushed a Smartie in your hand, you know. It was just powder. It's just powder. Like, are you serious? But you know, in terms of a pay-per-view, I'm not surprised that the AEW fans loved it. Of course they did. This was tailor-made for them. But for everybody else, they kind of look at it and say, there's nothing here for me. And I'm not surprised that people feel that way either. But let me know what you guys think. Talk to you guys later.